Cool. Well, thank you for the for your patience, and also to everyone. Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for an excellent symposium. Ramya, I really enjoyed your talk, and I think my topic will dovetail very well off of this. And so, yeah, hi everyone. My name is Chen. I'm the co-founder of a nonprofit think tank called the Partnership to Advance Responsible Technology. We specialize in working with clients, consulting on AI ethics, policy, and strategy, but we also spend a lot of time coordinating intentional strategic partnerships to help amplify the impact and reach of existing efforts for people to develop AI for good solutions. And yeah, I definitely noticed that the topics and subject matter for a lot of the presentations today mapped very nicely to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, what have been referenced multiple times over the course of the last 2 days. And what I want to really focus on is SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals, which was very intentionally baked into the UN SDG methodology, with their understanding that with all the different industry or sectoral silos that people working in these spaces often end up in, there's a really strong necessity for people to reach across barriers or aisles or geographies to better amplify and optimize the scale and impact of their work. And this is something that Dr. Raed Ghani mentioned yesterday, and perhaps some others as well. Just the value of being able to find the right organization that might have the trust of partners or institutions or communities, and ultimately remove some of those barriers to implementation or to affect policy or culture, social structures, etc. And I don't think anyone disagrees that just given how quickly and impactfully AI and data-driven technologies are being implemented, we don't have the luxury of proceeding much longer with academia, government, business, or civil society operating without understanding the respective goals and needs of their cross-sector counterparts. If anything, it's more important than ever that we coordinate and be on the same page, but unfortunately, that's a lot easier said than done. Working separately has been much more of the standard throughout history than anything that we've ever seen. And myself, coming from a social psychology research background, I see one of the biggest issues causing this to persist is the prevalence of silos across industries, geographies, sectors. Just the fact that people don't often have incentives to engage with people outside their general domain and share information, contacts, support the complementary work of somebody from another sector. And that's really caused a lot of or at least it's contributed to the challenges in accessing the appropriate data sets or talent or institutional leadership that has the power to take a great research idea and run the appropriate pilot or exploration within a policy or corporate context. So what I'd really like to posit is that even within these kinds of systems with silos, often operating independently, you do have the opportunities for individuals even to serve as hubs and nodes of connections. Any individual who makes an intentional effort to engage with people outside of their industry, sector, or domain might have the ability to foster a tie that breaks a silo wall or otherwise. And some of this is derived from social network theory, largely attributed to Mark Granovetter even back from the 1970s. But this concept of strength of weak ties and what that can do for an AI for good ecosystem that is already so expansive across disciplines and geographies. So, man, time really flies. What I really want to get across is that you've got this plethora of governments and organizations around the world that have made a commitment to driving forward an AI strategy, but very few of them have actually substantiated this beyond high-level principles or dedicating funding towards further exploring this question. And they're all desperate for exactly the expertise and skill sets that is represented by the people on this call. And there's an access and optimization problem that everyone's dealing with of how do we find the right people or partners and resources to come to our collective objectives, which are also well represented by those UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I think part of the immediate solution that we're already seeing and will become very important and critical within this decade is the importance of cities and hub microcosms of interactions that can happen within geographic proximity, though of course COVID makes some of this more challenging. And Pittsburgh, I believe, has one of the best opportunities to help become a test bed or a center of excellence that helps to create a playbook for much of the rest of the world. Essentially, given the Pittsburgh's influence throughout the earlier industrial revolution or revolutions, we now have this unique combination of big city innovation that's happening, very much, with credit to CMU and the decades of work here, but still with a small town cultural approach to collaboration and, ethical values surrounding these technologies, which really does set us apart from larger coastal metropolis cities that might not have the incentives to prioritize those kinds of value structures. So I really believe in our city's capacity to do so, and there's already a wide range of ways that Pittsburgh is involved. I myself, as somebody who, getting involved in this field about 3 or 4 years ago, I was less qualified than anybody else on this call to be doing this work, but I was able to find all sorts of avenues for people desperately looking for people trying to connect across disciplines. And it just turned into like a snowball effect of me getting involved in various initiatives and platforms. And I can assure you that anybody else here can do so as well, with just some thoughtful intentionality in reaching out to people and plugging into various communities. So what I'll close with is just a quick run through of far from exhaustive, but some of the things that I'm either directly involved with or very fond of. Locally, we have organizations like the Innovation District. I help run a community called Pittsburgh AI. There's a robotics network and also a task force on public algorithms that's looking for public comment on uses of municipal algorithms locally. Regionally and nationally, there's lots of exciting work, whether it's the C3AI Digital Transformation Institute that was recently launched, or Data Science for Social Good, the ARM Institute, and I also run a tri-city partnership between Boston, Montreal, and Pittsburgh called the AI Triangle, supporting startups, research, and policy efforts there. And then there's a wide range of international platforms and structures that have been development over the last 3 or 4 years. These include the AI for Good Global Summit that Ramya mentioned, and some of their partners like the AI Commons, XPRIZE, and Partnership on AI. And each of these has information repositories and ways of pulling together information on existing projects and talent and experts around the world. And for anyone who's interested in plugging in their research or work into a broader stream of potential partners and collaborators, I highly recommend that you check those out, whether on the AI for Good side, maybe, yeah, we'll see what happens with their summit later this year. XPRIZE has a pandemic alliance that's currently looking for people who want to contribute. Yeah, I think I'm already well over my time, so I'll just leave on this thank you slide. Thank you all again, and do feel free to reach out to me via email, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc.